period of Japanese history beginning in the mid to late 3rd century CE and continuing until roughly the 7th century CE is known as the Kofun Period and is named for the unique style of tumulus burial which became popular among this period's leadership class, the word kofun literally meaning old tomb in Japanese. These tumuli are most famously represented by the keyhole-shaped style known as Zenpo Koenfun, but various shapes exist and dot the Japanese archipelago from southern Kyushu all the way up to southern Tohoku. The physical characteristics of, as well as burial goods contained within early Kofun tumuli are fairly consistent across Japan, and the largest tombs were mostly constructed in the Yamato Basin in modern Nara Prefecture, leading us to believe that by the beginning of the 4th century CE, a large part of the country had come to be ruled by a coalition of local chiefdoms united by a shared religious belief system and led by the ruler of the Yamato region. This coalition government is referred to by modern scholars as the Yamato Government or the Yamato Kingdom, and its leadership position of Great King, called Ookimi, eventually settled into the possession of the ancestors of Japan's current imperial line. Tumulus burial goods originally consisted primarily of religious objects like mirrors and jewelry, but by the middle Kofun period they had come to include iron arms and armor as well, indicating that the Yamato Great King had come to exercise control over iron resources, and that he and the local chiefs under him were beginning to transition from shaman kings to military leaders. This iron and the technology needed to process it was originating from the Korean peninsula, whose kingdoms the Yamato government began actively interacting with from around the 4th century onward. In order to expand their influence there, the Yamato kings also began sending tribute to the emperors of China's southern dynasties in the following century, and this, as well as the aforementioned contact with Korea, allowed Japan to begin coming into contact with the advanced culture of the Asian continent. It was as a result of this contact that Japan ultimately welcomed many Korean and Chinese immigrants into the country to serve the Yamato government, both as skilled craftsmen and as scribes, the latter of whom introduced the Yamato court to the Chinese kanji writing system. This transmission of culture and technology from the continent culminated in the 6th century with the arrival of Buddhism from Korea, a development which essentially allowed Japan to upgrade its cultural software to the most sophisticated available operating system. By the latter half of the 5th century, the Yamato government began to evolve from a coalition to a more tightly knit kingdom, with the Great King gifting hereditary titles called kabane to the country's various local chieftains and absorbing them and their clan units, called uji, into the organs of government. This government system, known as the Shisei Seido, literally the Uji Kabane system or clan title system, would be the mode upon which the country's government operated until it attempted to go fully Chinese with the Taika reforms of 645 CE. If you want to know more about the Kofun period, please check out the 3rd video in my Japanese History the Textbook series, where I go into much of this information in greater depth. For learners of the Japanese language, there is also a link in the description to a playlist containing Japanese versions of all of these shorter videos. So if you're interested in seeing how Japanese history is discussed in the country's native language, be sure to check that out. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.